3, 2, 1.
My whole purpose for this call is to give business owners like yourself, like myself, insight into the success, the failures, the day-to-day struggles, and the real-life examples of how I've won and lost over the last 12 years of growing my own businesses. It's my hope that you'll engage and ask real questions of myself and my team so that you can avoid the pitfalls, the roadblocks, and the struggles that I've overcome. I want to share with you what I'm doing in my businesses, plus the businesses that I help run across this country. I want to give you the insight that I've learned coaching clients in medical, real estate, accounting, and other professional services, and how we've helped them live the life of a visionary entrepreneur, scale their organizations, and leave a lasting legacy on this world. All right, welcome everybody to this week's Think Big Call. I have Jared Brader, myself here, Morgan Hutchings, Chief Strategist, people person, communicator, and author of Why They Thrive. You can find that book at whytheythrive.com. Learn more about your team. The purpose of this week's call is to connect your business with the successes and to learn from the failures that I've experienced over the last 12 years of growing and developing my businesses and my team members. So we're going to hit on topics that cover mastering your mindset, communicating your culture, specializing in your specific science or specialty, and then, of course, how to monetize the marketing that's involved with that. So thank you all for joining us. If you're on live, chat in new so that we know in the chat box that you're on live. If you're not watching it in a recording, you're going to miss out on the live Q&A, but we'll see you in the future.
Yeah, hopefully on the next live one.
We got the table up a little higher today.
It is, yeah, it's a little bit higher. You got a second camera now. You're ordering cameras and audio and visual, and this thing's coming. I wish they could see what's behind the camera because this is becoming quite the little studio here. I love it.
Well, we have two different views if you're watching live or Facebook, YouTube. Pretty soon we'll probably have our own streaming channel to get this out there. Yeah. Today, Morgan, I really want to talk about, it came up during quarterly conversations last week with somebody on my team. The topic was this fear of failure. And I think it fits in so perfectly with what we've been talking about building this culture in your team, about running an autonomous organization, and this idea of fear of failure and its negative interaction with an unhealthy owner, right? So if we tie up the last 12 or 13 weeks that we've been talking about, my businesses and the businesses we've scaled and the businesses we've coached, it's connecting this fear of failure from a team member or ourselves with the unhealthy status of being an owner that sometimes comes about. And so do you have an example before I dive into mine?
There's so many examples. One that comes to mind. It's funny. I just wrote an article for this newspaper that reached out to me in Arizona. We've been doing a ton of work in Scottsdale.
Wait. You're going to be in a magazine before I am?
Well, hopefully we'll see. You create your own magazines and then you put yourself in your own magazines. Phoenix.
Wait until I put myself on the cover of Forbes magazine, or Vogue, or something like that.
Yeah. So I literally just wrote about this subject, and the example that I gave in that report was me failing the HIS exam. And I had gotten all the way up to the point where it was time to now become licensed. I had passed the state exam where I could prove to them I knew what I was doing. But when it came to the state exam and all the questions and everything, I failed it the first time. And I can't remember. I don't know if there's unlimited attempts or whatever it was. But I remember going home and having a conversation with my wife when I failed that exam and saying, I don't know if this is really what I want to do. And we had a great conversation about, well, what else would Jared let you do? Do you think you want to work there? Are you going to go back to looking for other jobs? And I was fresh out of college. So I was still young enough to think, well, I'll go work wherever. It doesn't really matter. But I think I knew at that moment with me failing that exam that the HIS path, me treating patients, being in the day-to-day with patients, just wasn't going to be for me. And hindsight being 2020, looking back on that now, thank God I didn't go back and try and do it again and double down on that. Who knows where I would be had I passed that exam, been in HIS, I might still be in your clinic never experiencing this world, never meeting all the clients that I've met, the travels that we've been on, Grant Cardone and Dawson this last week, and everything that we've accomplished actually came from my failure. And that report I just gave down in Phoenix was specifically about when to know when to give up on things. And for me, whether it was my instincts, I said it was about me trusting my core values and my gut instinct of what I felt like I was destined to be in this world. And an HIS just wasn't it. And that all stemmed from my failure on that HIS exam.
Well, and I guess, I mean, that's a great story. I didn't know you were going to go this direction. So that's fantastic. But right, did that fear of failure, or did that actual failure in your part, right? So you failed out of, you know, Jared's business number 3.
Yeah.
Right. My third business was the clinic. So you failed out of the clinics, right? So then what happened to you at that time?
Well, just to be clear, I should have passed that exam.
Okay.
The only reason that I failed that exam is because mentally my fear of failure, at this point in my life, I had been front desk. I sat next to Luann, trained me. I was up front for months, almost a year. I was on your phones team forever. Then I was an assistant of Dr. Pam Montgomery Earl for a long time. And she trained me a bunch on being an HIS. I studied under a bunch of your other HISs that you had on that time. We didn't have a whole lot of audiologists. Sure. And that was my career path. So literally going into that exam, it felt like if I fail this thing, I'm doomed. And I still believe this, that I should have, and I had the knowledge to pass that exam. And I failed that exam because of the fear of failure.
Well, and I think just the story, if I can take everybody a break, the story that you can have somebody either fail a test or choose no longer to be on the path that they originally were hired in your practice, right? And to see that journey now that Morgan's been on, to see him make multiple 6 figures, to see him be an investor in what we're doing, to see him be the team member, strategist, and coach is the ability to bob and weave, is the ability to recover, is the ability to problem solve, is the ability to succeed. And where would I be today had he just hit the eject button, or had I said, hey, you're a failure, get out?
Yeah, you failed that exam and now you don't have a spot here and I can't fit you in on the team. And there's definitely a lot of uncertainties there. But for me, it truly was the fear of failure that quite literally held me back from passing that exam. And now, thank God it happened. Sure. But hindsight being 2020, had I passed that exam, where would we be? And it was the fear of failure that actually held me back from.
And now I have your name trademark. You can't go anywhere. Right?
Yeah, I can't go anywhere. The non-compete.
So the story I wanted to tell, which is very similar. I have a team member, as many of you know, lost a director of operations in the last 40 days or so.
I don't know if lost is the right word, but
no longer have her there.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So no longer have her there. And so for the first time in over 2 years, I actually went and did the quarterly conversations with my team members. And it's amazing the things you learn.
Boy, did you make some discoveries. Huh?
So, you know, and we just had an epic first quarter. We had our best first quarter on record. We have less clinics today than we did over the last 2 years. I mean, the business is really humming along. We're getting ready to expand into Arizona and other states. So I'm grateful for where we're at. Grateful for the team I have, but you do learn a lot when you get in there and do your own quarterly conversations. So as I'm having this quarterly conversation, I'm trying to mentor the team up, right? And the first thing that I found out was how far rocks, these are these 90-day goals that people are committed to, how far rocks were twisted and ruined. Misunderstood, ruined. And my team thought that a rock was like this extra project on top of their 9-to-5 or 8-to-5 job that had to be cumbersome or had to be stretching who they were. And the specific conversation had to do with a staff member that's a little bit older, been with me for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years now, amazing employee, but at the end of the day, isn't going to become the next TikTok star. Okay. So as I'm having this conversation, I'm trying to help them realize their personal, professional, and financial goals. They have a very specific goal. They want to make $6,000 extra in the next quarter. They don't think it's possible. So we're sitting there and I'm talking about rocks and she's just like, I can't do more. Like I work 8 to 5. You want me to do more? You want me to learn these new things? And I'm like, no. I'm like, how does our business help people and make money? Treating patients, connecting patients with our treatment office, right? I said, okay. I said, do you do that every day in your job? And she says, yeah, I do that thing every day in my job from the front desk. And I said, okay. I said, do you know of any other ways that we don't currently do to connect us with more potential patients and treat more people? And she says, yeah, actually, there's this little town that we don't go to often. They have a senior center, and I really think they need to have an educational event. And I said, okay, well, have you been part of our educational events before? She says, yeah. I said, have you set them up before? She says, yeah. I said, how about this deal? You set up an educational event in this little small town. You get us 10 people to show up to that, and I'll help you reach that goal for second quarter.
The $6,000 goal.
The 6,000.
Okay.
There was a 3-prong approach, but this was one of the 3 prongs.
Gotcha.
And she's like, well, why would you do that? And I said, well, our mission is to educate and treat more patients. You have this little town that needs our services. It's much cheaper for you to connect with this local town and to connect us with patients than me to run another ad in the newspaper.
Sure.
So it's a win-win-win all the way around. So she says, you mean if I do my job, if I schedule a date, a time, and a place, and I coordinate it, I'm 1/3 of the way to my goal for the quarter. I said, yep. Guess what? Guess what? She had it done in 3 days.
Nice.
Not 90 days, 3 days. We're going to have 35 people there, all seniors.
Yeah.
And do you think we're going to be able to educate and treat patients?
Absolutely.
And the fear of failure component, not only the misunderstanding of the rock, but the fear of failure component, guess why she didn't want to do it?
Too much work?
No,
Not enough time?
no.
Didn't want to disappoint Jared.
Didn't want to disappoint Jared or the team, right? So when we came up with the goal of 10 people, we said, can you get 10 people there? And she's like, oh, I don't know.
What if there's 9?
What if there's 9?
Yeah.
I said, if there's 9,
yeah,
did you succeed or did you fail? Well, I think 9's pretty good. I said, okay, what about 8?
Yeah.
And we went back and forth and back and forth. And I mean, of course, I had her at 9, I had her at 8, I went all the way down.
2. Yeah,
right?
Sure.
But the reason that she didn't want to establish a rock to help the business was if she put a specific number on it and underachieved, she would be ostracized by the team, punished by Jared, or feel like a failure.
Yep.
How do you help that?
Yeah.
What do I need to do besides doing my own rocks and having those mentorship? Is there anything I can do communication wise?
Well, I mean, I think what's really hard about that situation, right, is there had been this lapse in leadership where Jared wasn't having these meetings. So not only were the rocks misconstrued, they were misunderstood. It was unidentified problem that nobody knew about. But once you knew about it, you communicated well, I think. What I think has to happen is that Valerie needs somebody in her life like Jared, who's a mentor to her all the time, not some of the time.
Sure.
And I think that's where we've talked in the past of like, how is that scalable? How does Jared do that for Valerie on a regular basis, regardless who the manager is or director or whatever else is going on? And I think we came to the agreement that monthly meetings were mandatory.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that in and of itself would have made the situation never come along, because I think you did a great job solving that situation for Valerie. And you talk all the time about limiting beliefs and helping her understand that it wasn't something you had to do outside the clock. It was something you're capable of. If 5 patients show up, that's a success. It's not a failure. That just has to happen more and more and more in her life. And we call those legacy employees, right? The people that have been with you for a long time. Those are the ones that are the hardest nut to crack. Right?
Sure.
If you've got somebody that's fresh out of school that's easily molded, it's easier to get inside their mindset early and say, look, you're not a failure if we get to 8. You're not a failure if we get to 6.
So how much of it though is this idea of leadership versus management, or even the next level mentorship? Because what I heard, not only, with this team member, but across the board with these quarterly conversations, was that it was turning into management, micromanagement, or punishment, or something else to stack on versus helping them realize their own personal dreams.
Yeah, I was going to say, right, you tied it right there at the end. And we heard this a ton this last weekend. It's all about them.
Mhm.
And right, what is the line that businesses don't move people, people move businesses.
Yeah.
And what you just said about their personal, had Valerie understood from the jump, from the word go, that she has a goal that is personal to her. The $6,000 was, in her case, it was 6,000. This could be a car, student loans we want paid off, money we need to make, houses we need to buy,
A shuffleboard.
a shuffleboard, great example, which is a reality for Jared and one of his staff members. Their personal attachment to why they do business and your personal attachment to why you started a business and own a business, when those two things get married, that is the magic sauce. And I think we've really started to understand that in the last 2 or 3 months now, since you've been back into that leadership role yet again, and you've seen the lack of mentorship, the lack of leadership, and even the lack of management there. But there are 3 tiers there. There is management in your office, there is leadership, and then the top of the hierarchy there is mentorship.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the big thing I hope that we're going to see when you start doing these quarterly leadership training days here in St. George, is that you're going to start teaching these principles and then giving actionable steps and deployment. So I'm going to call you on the spot here. When's the first one?
Yeah, tomorrow. No, I don't. Definitely needs to happen before summer. So, our summer typically starts around June or July. We have the Neuro Boot Camp happening in May, but we have home court advantage, right?
Yeah.
So we have the classroom across the hall that we can pull people into. And whether there's 2 or 12 people there, it gets the same balance, right? Success or failure. If there's one person in town that needs my help, then let's get it done.
So just on this topic. So I just got him to commit. Did you see that? So 4 times a year, he's going to do a leadership
No, you
boot
said
camp.
3.
Well, 3 more this year, 4 total, 4 per 12
Gotcha.
months, right? 1 a
Yeah.
quarter. He's going to do a leadership and communication session here in St. George in our training room across the hallway. I also got Reese earlier today to do communication and sales techniques. So we're going to be bringing in real estate agents, audiologists, dental, chiropractor, you name it. We're going to have them here to teach this and to share these concepts and to build more leaders, right? So we just learned this weekend, Grant Cardone, everybody knows, Brandon Dawson probably knows, Natalie Dawson, you look across the board, they scaled to 100 employees in 3 years on a proven platform and on a proven system.
Yep.
Right? We just spent the last 18 to 24 months building that system. We're getting ready to expand into multiple states, and we're going to do the same thing.
Yep.
So if you want to be part of that, if you want to join that movement, if you want to use our platform and our tools and our people and our trainings, you're going to want to watch the calendar. You're going to want to be here with Morgan. So on this idea of leadership, I want one more story.
I like that line. You got to be here with Morgan.
Yeah. One more story.
Yeah.
Ready? So we have an intern at Audit Experts.
Oh yeah, this was cool. Yeah.
Our intern wants to move to Arizona.
Yep.
Right.
Well, before that, he wanted to live in a van, but then through some mentoring.
Yeah. So we took him from, college intern.
Just for reference, like those people that work with young individuals who don't think they have passion, who think that they, are all about the blockchain and cryptocurrency, and they'll never work in an office and they can't listen to anything and they can't do anything right. This kid, literally, I heard him say when I first met him that his dream was to travel the world and live in a van and be free and be, whatever the word for that is. That was his dream in life. And now his dreams.
So right. We give a paid internship. We let him, drink the Kool-Aid, be around our energy, see the vision.
Yep.
Right. We start teaching. We send him to a growth conference in Florida, $1,500 ticket, flights, hotel, right? Gets paid to go, comes back. We help him apply for a job. Tell me what it was like to help mentor somebody into a job that would free him from us. Like what
we're going to lose him.
Yeah.
This is our sales guy that we're going to lose.
Yeah.
And I think through that when he came home from GrowthCon, he had his eyes set. He was going to work for Grant Cardone. And his venture where he was going to be able to do that was to actually go down to Phoenix and work for Brandon Dawson and Cardone Ventures and that team. So he applied. I think he applied like the day he got home. He just had this like itch that he had to scratch. And sure enough, he got an interview. And then I think reality set in. This kid's like a 9 in quick start. For anybody that understands Colby, this kid is like a shoot first and aim later type of person. That's what made him instinctually such a great salesperson. He applied, and then I think reality hit like, oh man, now I've got to figure out, I've never applied for a job before. My resume is not that great. He's fresh out of college. So we fired him right into the mentorship program where we probably had a week and a half crash course with the kid, less than that.
Oh, he got our 90-day TC training in 3 hours.
Yeah, he got the sales boot camp. I mean, talk about drinking from a fire hose from Jared, Reese, and Morgan. And that was, within hours of him going into the first initial role play. They make them role play to apply for the job, and he crushed it.
So I want to talk about fear of failure in this specific example, but in 3 hours, we gave him what Reese is going to do quarterly with these in St. George sales and communication, got a guy a job with, probably the #1 sales organization or one of the top few in the country.
Yeah.
Right. And we made him pick up the phone and sell neuroscience boot camp to a guy named Keith.
Yeah.
Right. Who happened to be Dr. Darrow. He just didn't know it. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was awesome.
So it was totally epic. We did it. We showed him. He learned a nugget. Right. And we just realized that if we can condense it down, if we can put them through an intense boot camp here in St. George, if we can have them on site, we can turn that person into a rock star for you. Yeah. Fear of failure, though, you mentioned Colby and I mentioned Valerie, right? A team member of mine. What's the difference here that we're finding with this fear of failure? Why is it that one would stretch himself so far and one, is worried about getting 8 people to attend instead of 10?
Yeah, and I mean, Connor, this young individual that works for us, I think he would admit to you that he was afraid. So I think the first thing that you have to understand is that there's not a lack of fear. Connor was fearful of, will I get the job? Will I not get the job? Should I apply? What you're looking at is the timeline. The timeline of which Connor sits there and contemplates, what if it doesn't work out? What if I don't get the job? What if they don't accept me? Is so short. It's a fraction of a second for his instincts versus someone's instincts like mine, who's a fact finder. We need questions. We need answers to questions. So we will sit there and dwell on what if for a much longer amount of time. But the fear of failure is there for everybody. And he said that to me. We've had this conversation where he said, of course I was worried about it, but if you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That's his mentality, and his Colby supports him in that and drives him forward. So his timeline of accepting failure is much, much shorter. Whereas the other people that most likely work for you, front office staff people, the people that are in charge of your documents, that have the red bars that initiate in fact finding, and the people that initiate in follow through, those blue bars, they need things. They need certain things to overcome that fear.
So, I mean, I want each and every one of you that are listening to understand, right? My goal for this call is to teach you successes and failures. So what took me 12 years to build and scale, right, and to learn and to develop, we can shrink that down for you, right? We have a system, we have a training protocol, we have our role plays, we have our huddles. Today, I mean, I sent out example huddles today to practice owners. I sent out example job descriptions, example offer letters. Like, what I'm sharing now is meant to help you expedite your ability for scaling, right? And so we can coach you through creating your own, or you can say, I want to be all in and I'm going to join you guys in the path that you're on and the data that you have, and we're going to go faster, right? So my job is to help you compress the time and to get to your results and your legacy quicker. What I want to talk about is, now that Valerie has touched success in the matter of what's the 5th, like 4 or 5 days into the month, she's 1/3 of the way to that goal.
Yeah.
How does touching success and having achievement relate to speeding up and condensing time?
Absolutely. So like, if Valerie, as far as mentorship goes, if Valerie's never had somebody in her life that's proven to her that she is capable of things, same thing, different than Connor, she's going to dwell on what is and what is not possible. And until you show them, they're just not going to believe. So she's 1/3. Now, whatever you said, you had a three-prong approach, whatever 2 and 3 is, if she's never done that before, you're going to have to show her how to reach out there and get that out of the universe. Mm-hmm. And the good news is you'll never have to show her that again if she does it successfully.
Yeah. How many, I mean, we talk about 7 to 12 touches in the sales approach. So while I'm on this topic, chat in when the last mentorship conversation you had was, and what you personally helped a team member achieve, personally, professionally, or financially. Chat in how you helped, what it was, any details, so we can talk about it. So with Valerie specifically, the second prong of this approach was, I said, Valerie, what's part of your job as people exit? And she said, to get referrals. And I said, what? That's amazing. That in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you know
Your job is referrals.
that your single most important job, not task, because we do a lot of tasks each day, but your job is to turn one patient into 3, right? To get referrals. I said, okay. I said, do you know how many you got last quarter? And she hummed and hawed. She didn't know the exact number, but she basically said, yeah, I know generally speaking that I had about 6. I said, okay. I said, Valerie, how important do you think it would be if we went from 6 to 12? She said, well, wow, that would be amazing. I said, well, what if that's the second prong of the approach, Valerie? What if you really focus on doubling, getting from 6 to 12? And all of a sudden, again, that's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah. That's double. I mean, it took me this many years to get to 6. I said, well, Valerie, what if you had a goal of 12, but you got us to 8? Well, I think that would be pretty good. Yeah. I said, okay. I said, so do you think we can set it as a goal? And she said, yeah. So we actually upped the goal to 10. So now in the second quarter, she's building upon success. How much money in audiology, right? This specific business, that could be $80,000 of additional revenue from referrals and a $40,000 increase quarter over quarter.
Yeah. For no real additional work. I mean, you're not actually asking, the same amount of patients will come in and out of your office. You're just asking for a few.
Well, and I think it's what Tony Robbins says, where focus goes, energy flows, because it's already part of our job. It's not extra hours. It's no more work. It's just having a little bit more alignment with what she wants for the second quarter and what I want for the second quarter. And why not give her the money instead of the newspaper, radio, or television?
Absolutely. Now, what you were talking about is expediting that success, right? Yeah. So on the referral point, if let's say Valerie, she's fairly successful, right? So there's a scale here. Imagine there's a scale, and she said that she's on average getting 6. And whoever's the most successful in your office is currently getting like 20 referrals. What do you say, a year, a quarter, or something? Okay. Let's say that's the scale, right? She gets 6. The best person in your office, who's like the cream of the crop, they get 20.
Yeah.
If you can show her the script, literally show her the words to use, the script, the role play, all of it. If you can show her just the way we showed Connor that day, you will expedite that success process.
So what you're specifically talking about, and I see business owners across the board, I see unhealthy owners like I was, even that I still dip back into unhealthy status, is I want more. I want more from that team member. I want more from that employee. I want more, right? Well, what does good look like? And so what you're talking about is benchmarking.
Yeah.
Right. And I had this conversation on a private coaching call. If you're not part of our group, go ahead, reach out to Morgan at Audit Experts, talk about becoming a private coaching member. But we were talking specifically about this benchmark.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what's your goal for the doctor? Well, my goal is, 5. And I said, okay. I said, have you ever got 5? No. Well, how do you know that that's the benchmark if you don't have a proven process, you don't have the proven words, and you can't show me proven clip of what it looks like?
Yeah. And you can't, or you would have gotten 5. Right?
Sure.
It would be available to you if it was available.
So you're talking about benchmarking, right? And then helping mentor the person to do it the right way with consistency to get the results.
And expediting her success process, because how long does she have to earn this money from you, the $6,000?
It's the quarter.
Right. She's got, and you said she already knocked off the first prong approach in like 4 days or whatever. Yeah. So if there is a lack of education, knowledge, wherewithal, whatever you want to call it, on getting referrals, if you give her the script, if you role play with her and you let her talk to somebody that is successful with referrals, she'll get that done in the next 2 weeks rather than waiting the next.
Instead of, guess what her rock has been for the last 3 quarters that I wasn't really paying attention to.
And she's front office. I'm going to guess something crazy like lick envelopes.
Learn more Microsoft programs.
Oh, there you go.
Not a SMART goal. Doesn't really have anything to do. I mean,
I'll tell you how dumb of a goal that is. Okay. Not dumb person. That's a dumb goal. And here's why. I know nothing about Microsoft, and anytime anything happens to my computer, I go to Google.
Yeah.
I'll never take a course on Microsoft. And anybody that does take a course on Microsoft is stupid.
No.
Because you should just Google it. So like you setting
but you know where this came from. So I got to take ownership. I got to take ownership of this.
I don't know if I want to.
Right. So there was a time, probably 2.5 years ago.
The printer broke or some stupid shit.
Yeah, there was a time, 2.5 years ago, right, when people said, where's the process? And Jared said in a snippy email, because he was pissed off,
because you're unhealthy,
it's saved in Microsoft.
Okay. And then the excuse became, we don't know how to get into Microsoft.
And so Jared said, then you better set a rock to learn some Microsoft.
I see. Yeah.
What I meant was figure it the hell out.
Yeah. Unhealthy Jared Brader. Yeah.
So just recalibrating and realigning these goals, I can tell is already going to speed up this clinic.
Absolutely.
Now, this clinic is already, after 1 quarter, up 60% year over year, on pace for a record by June.
Love it.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I can keep,
I'm so glad I invested before all this happened.
So if I can keep mentoring up, if I can keep helping team members like this accomplish their personal goals, their professional goals, their financial goals, showing them what is possible to achieve.
Yeah.
Do we reduce the fear of failure and the belief in this leader is here to help me? And if they help me, I'll help the business.
Absolutely. And through helping the business, I can help myself and my family and my churches and the people I donate money to and all of it.
I love it.
Freedom.
So the next thing I want to talk about, because I learned this weekend too.
Can I mention one other thing on Connor?
Sure.
Because that was like, I truly wish, and we do have the role play recorded. I would love to share that with people at some point. One of these days, we really should share that, because anybody that's ever ran a phones team, been on the phone, anybody that works for you that's literally answered a phone for your business, if you could see in the time span of 3 hours, this is where Jared canceled his phone calls, Morgan canceled my phone calls, Reese canceled his phone calls, because Connor had a role play session with Cardone Ventures like 3 days later, 4 days later. So we said, let's help this kid out. Let's do the best thing we can. And we literally had like 3 hours in this room. The door was locked, no interruptions. And if you could see him from the first role play where Reese just like brutalized, like just Reese beat him to death about questions on what the product was and when it started and who was speaking, to the final role play who was with Keith, who totally had his, what does he call himself? His masshole.
Yeah.
He totally had like the guy that does not want to talk to you on the phone vibe, crushing it on the phone. And if you can do that in 3 hours with a young individual who knows little to nothing about the product that he's selling, and take him along that journey, what could you accomplish in 2 weeks? And now I'm sad the kid's leaving just because they're going to turn him into an absolute demon. But that's what we want to teach people. And what I was going to mention for anybody that's watching this on recording or that's with us tonight, that's a current client, I think the other thing that, if you're wondering like, well, why can't Reese do that for me? I think what we learned yet again, it was reinstilled in us this last weekend, and we've been on, I think, the same wavelength for a long time, is we've got to go back to in person.
Yeah.
The days of Zoom and the days of phone calls, that is.
You mean the texting underneath the table?
Yeah, that is. Exactly. If I had a quarter for every meeting I've been on where the person turns their camera off and looks away and does something else. No, what Connor experienced in 3 hours was more information than you could get in an entire semester of college classes. And that information in those 3 hours changed his life to the point that he got that job and is now moving to Phoenix. And that's what we want to instill in your employees and the people that come to town, but it has to be in person. It truly has to be that boot camp like experience with fill in the blanks and live role plays, and the camera is on so that we can judge the before and the after. That is the power of going back to what was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And I think that was reinstilled this weekend of how important that is.
Yeah. Well, and what we're doing, right? We hired a new PEC. We have another PEC starting next week. We got phone team people.
Mm-hmm.
The Arizona clinics are hiring, right? So we, yet again, like we did a couple of years ago, right before COVID, there's this new influx of candidates and people. And so it makes sense for me and my businesses to have those boot camps, a leadership one every quarter, a science one every quarter, a sales one, a marketing one every quarter, right? They're going to be full, whether it's local businesses or whether it's audiologists, whoever it is, we're going through it.
And that's what I thought was beautiful, was down at the Grant Cardone event, there were multiple people in the room that were all his employees.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just this ultimate, almost like a baptism of your job is to absorb knowledge. So even if nobody comes to town, it's going to be Jared's staff here in town. Jared's staff is just going to continue that success path.
Yeah. So I want to talk about this because I know as a business owner, it's probably something that I've struggled. Well, I know it's something I've struggled with for 12 years. You have people on your team. I need you to chat in. Do you have somebody on your team that you just don't understand? You don't understand their philosophy and their relationship with money. You don't understand why they won't ask questions. You don't understand why they don't seem motivated. What are you seeing with your team? Chat in what you're seeing, because I want to share with you this scale, right? And what I'm seeing is there's a segment of people that actively try every day not to fail.
Yeah.
That is their number one goal. They wake up in the morning and say, by God, I hope I don't fail today.
Yeah.
Right. And then
it's hard because I'm picturing the people that I know about that we've worked with, that their goal, their sole purpose that day is to not fail.
Yeah. And then there's people on the other end of the spectrum, like us, visionary entrepreneurs that say, what new thing can I launch today? What new business can I start? How can I disrupt? How can I innovate? What can I do that nobody on this planet has ever done before?
Yeah. Chaos can I spread?
Right. So when you put those two people in a room together, what do we do, Morgan?
Well, honestly, you probably ignore each other, or this person gets absolutely dominated and just,
but they never quit.
Withdraws
even when you
from the
dominate
conversation. Yeah. Yeah. But so there's this first group of people that their sole intention is not to fail.
Mhm.
Who's next?
So then where are we go on the ladder? We go from my sole intention is not to fail to I know what goals are, but I can't achieve them.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Then where do you have? You have people that like, yes, I understand what a goal is. And I understand I'm supposed to shoot for a goal, but I don't know how to achieve it. And I don't know how to ask questions. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to ask questions. I don't know how to be an active participant. I don't know how to listen. Then what do you have? You have people that can set goals and achieve goals, right? Whew. I made it by 0.2 pounds, Morgan. I made my goal, right?
Yep.
And I'm good. I made it.
Bare minimum,
I'm content. I made it. I achieved my goal. Leave me the hell alone. Don't stretch me. Don't push me. Don't ask for more. I did it.
Yeah. Yep.
What do you mean we have to change our goals?
Why would you raise the number?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
You're just making change. You're just adding change and chaos to our practice. Why do you want to change that number?
Sure.
Then what do you have? You have people that want to exceed their goals. You have people that want to push beyond their goals. That's who you want on the team. Nobody lower than the person who will achieve. That should be your bottom. Not people that wake up trying not to fail. Not people that wake up trying to do the bare minimum. Your bottom level, new hire, addition to your team should be the person that knows what a goal is, has a goal, and actively tries to achieve the goal. That's the lowest you want on your team. But you want people that excel. You want people that achieve their goals. You want people that establish new goals. You want people that want to set the new bar, the new benchmark. Those are the people that will push your organization forward. And I can tell you here today, I'm no longer paying people for their time. The new rule is we're paying people who will excel their goals. We're paying people who will drive it forward, even if that means paying them twice as much as the going wage. Yeah. We're hiring winners. We're scaling. We're going.
Yeah, those are also the people, because I know somebody chatted in and listed some of the issues that they have. Those people that are at the top of that paradigm, right? Like Colby calls that the dynamite, the people that you want on your team. Those are also the people that will help you flush out the people that are at the bottom of that barrel, the people that don't belong. Because if you've ever had somebody on your team that's a real overachiever, someone that's looking to set high goals and hit those goals and really approach those goals with like relentless tenacity, like somebody that's really going to go after it. And most people that we meet, there's always like one, but then there's all these other people on the team that kind of overshadow the one person that could be a monster, but is kind of laying still. And that person is often ruined by the team rather than that one person pushing the team forward. And I think that is the beauty of truly talking to your staff about what they want versus what the business needs.
So I want to talk about that, the staff pulling the organization forward versus us trying to push the staff forward. I want to talk about that specifically on these different tiers and who's a good fit, who's not a good fit. I see your white paper there. So I don't know if anybody's seen it. You have this new white paper on freeing futures, right?
Which camera we're using? Yeah, it's so beautiful.
So freeing futures. So do you
talk
about this? Do you talk about warning signs, what to do, right? Is this, tell us more.
Yeah, absolutely. So like one of the things that's in here is listen to your team, right? So it goes back to, it truly goes back to, Jared says this all the time, it drives me nuts. It goes back to the process. So if you don't have a process in your office to check in with your staff, you're never going to know. Like you thought the process was handled by somebody else, unfortunately, but there wasn't a good process set in place to help Valerie earn this money.
Sure.
Right. And had you been checking in, you would have known. The same is true for the employees that are the bottom dwellers, the bottom feeders, the people that need to go, is the rest of your staff will tell you. They will let you know, Jared was late today. Jared didn't show up for the meeting. Jared is always negative, right? Those people that are withdrawn for the meetings, the people that don't communicate well, the people that are trying to sabotage your business is really what they're trying to do. But as far as indicators of somebody that needs to, have their future freed, your staff will let you know. If you have good staff, which you should, right? Like that's going to be a real issue. If you're just full of like horrible people and dirtbags on your team, that's going to be a problem. But if you've hired good people, you have a good culture, and you have a process to meet with those people regularly, they'll let you know. They'll give you your first indication that I don't like when he's in the meeting with us because he brings negative energy. He doesn't help.
It reminds me of, you ever seen those like little fish that eat calluses off people's feet?
Sure.
Yeah, it reminds me of like just the team just
Sure.
going after that.
A good culture
object.
will do that. A good culture will say that person doesn't belong, and I'm trying to get $6,000 this quarter, and you're holding me back from getting $6,000.
Healthy friction, right? EOS
Sure.
calls it healthy friction. So my dad, these new reports show up from the print house yesterday. My dad is here today, director of fulfillment, sends out all of our stuff, does a great job without generally any feedback from me, just handles it.
Yeah,
right?
Shout out Dave Brader for being an adult.
So this report, he's sitting there stuffing, I don't know if you know, there's 180 of these going out to Southern Utah businesses. It's the third mailer in a series of mailers here in St. George as we scale up helping small businesses locally and around the country. And he's sitting here overhearing us today talking about people on the staff. So what did you think about just a former, manager, ran his own small business, car dealership manager, general manager, like, we think he's over here listening to his hearing aid music or Fox News, and he's like just actively involved.
And he was actually in tune, I think, with our thought process or our philosophies. And I think the specific words he says, the words he used were the people that deserve to get fired are the bottom feeders that are trying to wreck your business. The people that are actively, this would be the abusers, the people that are.
So hold on. So tell us this stat. Do you know it off the top of your head, or
which one?
The Gallup stat of unengaged and then actively sabotaging.
Yeah, I think 66% of people are actively unengaged in your business. And 18% of people are actively trying to sabotage your business.
Think about that. 1 in 5 of your employees is actively sabotaging your business. Would you let somebody steal from your family, hurt your kids? 1 in 5 is doing that. And so he was saying that's the person, that 18% is the person that you should
deserves to get fired. Anybody else that's not in that 18% deserves a mentor. And deserves the chance to level up in the company, learn something. Maybe they've never had a mentor, a coach, or a person in their life that's
the process, the expectation, what good looks like.
Maybe they weren't trained properly. I mean, yes, there's definitely, and keep in mind that 18% of people that are trying to wreck your business, that comes in a lot of forms. That doesn't literally mean they're taking money out of the old, nobody uses these anymore. I don't even know what they're called, where you used to keep money. It doesn't mean they're actually stealing from you. This could be them, sowing discord in the office. This could be literally them gossiping in your office, which somebody chatted in, discord in the office. That owner, they don't know anything. Don't you know they filed bankruptcy a few years ago? And they live next to my sister's brother, cousin, and I heard they cheated on their wife. That will wreck your business. That if you don't have the proper culture in place and you don't have people that are weeding those people out, that will wreck your business. That toxicity will seep and then creeps in the 66% of people.
So it's interesting, right? There's the new Gallup study that we quoted, but right, my dad, 60, I don't know, I'm going to get this wrong, 69 years old, former manager, he just had the boots on the ground skills to saying, yeah, I remember those people and I had to fire them as a general manager. And I remember the others that I had to build up my sales team. So I don't think that's new. The Gallup poll might be new, but the concept of that leadership and management helping a team is extremely fundamental. What do we do to help somebody though? So if we've identified this 66% of unengaged or disengaged people, Morgan, and we say, okay, we're going to be better leaders, we're going to be better mentors, right? What are you going to do? We've talked a lot about process. What else do we do to show somebody what good looks like?
Well, I mean, the best thing you can do is hopefully you have an example in your office, right? Like you ask this question all the time of, have you ever done it in your life? Yes or no? And do you know anybody in your life that's ever done it? So ideally in your business, you have somebody that has been successful. And, the beautiful conversation is there. Let's say I have Jared, who's an underperformer, and I have Dave, who's like really overachieving everything and is amazing. I can say, here's your stats, Jared, and here's Dave's stats. What do you think Dave might be doing that's different than what you're doing? And what that does is it takes the pressure.
I need
off
you to
of
say that again, because that's like a power. I need the Morgan power phrase book. What did you just say?
Yeah. So rather than me putting the pressure on Jared as the individual who we know is failing, he's the one that's underperforming, and me saying, what's going on? You're doing everything wrong. I get to say, here's what success looks like. Literally, it's in our office. Here's the benchmark of what we want. Here's you. What do you think Dave might be doing? What are some of the things that Dave might be doing that's different than what you're doing that might be leading him to success? And what that does is it takes the pressure off of Jared. So rather than me pointing the finger at Jared,
being defensive,
it's
right?
saying, let's study Dave and say, what might he be doing that's different? And through that, we can ask great questions, right? Finding out what Dave truly is doing, studying him, writing a process, making sure that this person has proper mentorship. And people call this all kinds of things: a recalibration plan, employee improvement program, benchmarking, call it whatever you want. But what this individual needs, to Dave's point, if he's not one of the 18%, if I believe in my heart that Jared's not trying to sabotage my business, I've got to grab him and lift him up with me, starting with what he wants in his personal, professional, and financial life.
So let me just, if we're going to compare Reese and I here just for a minute. So are you telling me that if I got up at 4 a.m. every day and ran anywhere from 2 miles to 26 miles a morning, that maybe I would, be on a better path in my health?
Absolutely.
Like, is that would that be an example of Morgan asking Jared, what good behaviors is this person doing that you're not doing that could?
For sure. And I think it's also a good example because Jared might tell me that his goal is not to run 100 miles, which was Reese's goal. Jared's goal in life might just to be healthier. If we tried to make that I want to be healthier statement more smart, meaning specific and measurable, Jared might come back and say, I want to lose X amount of pounds, or maybe I do want to do a half marathon, something that we can actually measure. Then I get to say, here's where you are, right? No running, no morning routine, no nothing. And here's Reese, who's running 100 miles like once a day or whatever nuts he does. What do you think Reese might be doing? What are some of the examples that Reese might be doing that maybe sets him apart?
Beating the sun up.
Exactly. Do you think he has a different diet? Do you think he has a different morning plan? Do you think he ends his day differently? What time do you think he goes to bed? And do you think if you did some of those things, you might lose some pounds, you might be able to run a half a mile, you might be healthier? And if I can get Jared to agree on that common ground, we get to end with, great. If I can show you how to do that and we can block your time off on your schedule so that you can beat the sun up, and if I help you show what exactly you should be eating, and I get you dietitian magazines, and hell, we hire you a dietitian, would that be something you're interested? Well, yes, it would.
So we have a new applicant, new hire coming in yesterday, right? We met with her and we agreed to a job shadow plan so she can see the job. Yeah. And then she asked, probably one of the better questions I've ever seen is can you tell me what is a good example of doing this job? Yeah. Something like that, not word for word. But basically I said, yes, I have video from my last set of hires, my current team, where I can show you exactly how to greet a patient. And my expectation is that in the first 30 days, you're going to speak and talk and greet a patient just like this. Mm-hmm. Not your own way, not my personality, not, oh, I missed something. You're going to follow this process. And if you can do it my way, I know you're going to be successful. And if you're successful my way, then you can try and innovate or improve upon and pull the company forward because you're even better than my process, right? But I have a picture, I have a process, I have photo and video. And so today, same with daily huddles. A client today said, well, my team's against daily huddles. And I said, okay, do you have a written process? No. I said, okay, have you seen one of Jared's huddles? Of course, I had to go to my team and say, where do we save these huddles? What do we do with these huddles? And then forwarded the huddle. Yep. But I'll bet you that now that the team has seen what a good huddle looks like, and they're not out there swimming in a dark ocean without any example, that they're going to be off to the races.
Yeah, what it brings is it brings clarity. right? And what's that saying of confusion creates chaos and chaos creates failure, right?
Mhm.
And with this new hire, what happened? She knew this or she didn't know this, but she walked into it. She asked, what does success look like? Thankfully, Jared spent 18 or the last 24 months and millions of dollars developing all these crazy processes in his office that he can say, well, that's a great question. As a matter of fact, I do. Here's the script we use. Here's a video that I have. Here's what it sounds like on a recording of a phone. And here's my best damn employee that I want to introduce you to. And he or she can show you how to do it. And what I expect is in 30 days for you to look, sound, feel all of the above, like this employee that looks like success.
And meets benchmark. Because I should be able to show that you both do and have the same KPI.
Mm-hmm.
You both have the same outcome, right? It's perfect in real estate, in any kind of sales. You see, well, I have this sales performer here and this sales performer here.
Yeah.
Well, closing that gap will speed up your problem. What if every one of your agents was like your top performer?
Exactly. And
not better than your top performer, not more, not I need more than I currently have.
Yeah.
What if they were all just producing at the same benchmark?
Yeah. And what it should do for this new hire is alleviate failure.
Yep.
Because there's clarity there. This is exactly this is what success looks like. So if we get 15 days into this training program and she quits, I count that as a success. Because what she did is she decided, I'm not willing to put in the time, the energy, the money, any of it to get to where these guys are trying to push me to. And I would rather have that happen than what's happened in the past with other employees where we get 6, 9, 12, 24 months into the road. And now they decide, oh, I don't want to do this. This job's so hard. We have to wake up early. And you guys always make me role play. It's like, no, you're role playing on day one. And that's what we expect of you. So it eliminates that failure for us. There is no failure. There's just somebody that wants to be on the team or somebody that doesn't want to be on the team.
So fear of failure, I want a little bit of a transition here into something we've talked a lot about, which I learned from Disney, right? Disney, Ritz-Carlton, on stage, off stage, right? So when you look at your organization and maybe you have the 18% that you have to cut, we talk about the pumpkin plan all the time. So 18%, find those people, weed them out, solve that problem.
Yeah.
This other 66% are just, they're everyday team members, great people, average humans, right? And they're going to have issues. We all
I was gonna say, I think that 66 fluctuates because somebody might be going through a divorce, a death in the family.
Yeah, we all have our baggage and our issues at different time, right? Yeah. And I think leadership's job is to put those bumper lanes on and help them when they dip below, and then help them raise up. What do you do on stage, off stage to limit? Like, look, you can have personal issues.
Sure.
Right? Whether it's a health scare in the family or, a divorce, whatever. What do you do on stage, off stage?
Give me an example. What do you mean? Like on stage, off stage with an employee?
I mean, we've generally, the biggest one we've noticed with some former employees that just drove us wild was the constant bickering. My daughter's pregnant, my daughter this, my daughter that, my husband this. Like it's
you're talking about like somebody chatted in and said like gossip or like office nonsense. Is that what you're talking about? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the concept there of on stage, off stage is right. You would never see Mickey Mouse in full costume talking about his divorce or smoking a cigarette, right? It's literally not going to happen. I've never seen a photo of it. I've never heard anybody talk about that. It isn't possible for them. That is what success looks like. And they do not tolerate failure over there. So the same needs to be true in your business, that when you're on stage, meaning you have clocked in, you're on my time and I'm paying you, you need to be acting a certain way. And if there was a patient in our front office and they had to listen to your sob story about the husband that you hate and you wanted to leave for 20 years and you just can't because there's kids and a dog and a neighbor and everything going on, that is Mickey Mouse smoking a cigarette in the middle of the park.
And I just say, pull your shit together, right? That's the gut reaction for me.
Yeah.
But so you see this going on. What's your job as a leader? Mm-hmm. Number one, the first moment it happens, what's your job as a leader?
Immediately bring it to their attention. Immediately pull them out of the situation. So literally, if I was managing your office, if I was in your office and I heard somebody.
Wait, are you volunteering to go back?
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. If I was in your office and I overheard this right through the wall or whatever, I would immediately say, hey, Jared, do you have 2 seconds that we could just go in the back room really quick? I just have something I want to chat with you about. Remove them from that situation and immediately bring up that I just witnessed. And I would immediately say, one of the core values, one of the things we talk about all the time is that it's about the patient. It's not about us. You know that, right? You understand when you were hired. Do you remember when we had that conversation about core values? And I would always check in with the employee. Do you remember when we talked about that, Jared? Yes, I do. You know, that's one of our core values here. Yes, I do. Well, up front, just a minute ago, when I heard you talking about X, Y, and Z, I don't think that's a good representation of our core values. Would you agree with that? Do you see how that might be breaking some of our core values? Yeah, I guess I could see that. Maybe that might be an issue. Great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the rest of the day off, paid or unpaid. I don't care. I don't have a preference. You're going home. And I want you to take the rest of the day to think about what it means to be on stage and off stage. And I want you to think about our core values, and I would just eliminate them. And what that does is it shows that employee what you're willing to tolerate. And it shows the rest of the employees what you're willing to tolerate, because it shows them, we were just having this conversation about X, Y, and Z, and Jared got sent home after talking to Morgan. We better not ever bring that up again.
So I love that you did that. I think that's what, you've preached to me now for a number of years. This weekend, we got a kind of a different version of that. Yeah. And I don't know if you remember the words, but basically, I'm going to talk to the camera is, hey, Morgan, do you have a minute? My intention here is to bring to your attention some behaviors I think you're mistakenly doing that might be holding you back from your personal, professional, and financial goals. Yeah. Right. And the only difference there, right? I'm not a literal speaker, so I heard the same thing.
Yeah, but it's about them.
But if you are a literal speaker, instead of hearing, oh, I broke mommy and daddy's rules or core values, oh shit, I'm holding myself back from that new car. I'm holding myself back from a career. I'm holding myself back. And so I just thought that was a great nugget to just be very pointed, same thing, very pointed, out of the situation, cut it early, don't let it fester, boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
And the perfect example today was from another business owner about cell phone policies, right? And the complaint was, I have a team member who's on the cell phone during work hours, and it was all about cell phone. I said, well, what is the cell phone policy? Oh, we don't have one. Yeah. Okay, well, how can you blame X, Y, and Z on the cell phone if you don't have a policy? You're just assuming, because I have my cell phone out all day.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to be doing this, that, or the other thing.
That's how we sign deals. You gotta have it.
Right.
And for all you know, just right, we talk about empathy all the time. For all you know, this employee might have someone in their life that's dying of cancer, and they quickly checked a text message, right? So there's context there, right? At the same time, as an unhealthy business owner, you might see an employee on the phone and immediately want to just like wreck them.
You want to go to unhealthy.
Right. Go to unhealthy.
My numbers are down. We're not achieving goals. It must be your damn cell phone.
But the healthiest version of that, like there's a potential for a situation there where that employee might have some serious stuff going on in their life. The most leadership, right? You holding yourself accountable as the owner of the business is looking internally first and saying, have I given this employee the rules to the game? Because it's a can't versus a won't, right? We talk about that a lot too. If you've told employee A, the policy here is no cell phones. If I see you with a cell phone out, I'm going to take it and smash it with a hammer. Then when you see them with a cell phone, you have your process there. But if you've never brought that up before, and then the employee's on their cell phone, who are you to freak out, right? But unhealthy versus healthy, where are you going to go? You're going to go right into you're wrong, I'm right.
I love it. So, I mean, some big takeaways, right? The way to stop that behavior quickly, right? Recalibrate on the spot. I love the words.
Yeah. If you're not on the spot, this is what we did a week ago with your staff, right?
Yeah.
No one was there. There's no manager in Jared's clinic right now. They're their own managers. We had a situation arise that was gossip, drama, whatever you want to call it. We instantly called a meeting. They were there later that afternoon. And I think
when's the statute of limitations on that? Because I want to share that footage too.
Oh man. That maybe after you retire. When you retire, we can share that film.
Maybe at the next private day. I'll let you show it at the leadership booth. The next quarterly leadership training session you do, I'll let you show it as an example.
What a good conversation looks like with employees.
Yeah.
Scary.
So you heard some great words, right? My intention for this meeting is to bring to your attention some behaviors I think you're making by accident that are holding you back from your personal professional. I think that would be the single most powerful thing you could do. We talked about rocks and fear of failure, helping your team realize don't let perfection get in the way of progress, right? If you set a goal of 10 and you achieve 8 and 8 is better than last month at 5, that is amazing, right? What does good look like? Make sure that there are very, very clear and concise expectations for anything from a role to a marketing piece to a phones piece. And then understanding that people won't know and experience success until they touch it, right? So you have to help the Valeries, the Jacobs, the Spencers, the team that you have to help them experience things like we've experienced, right? And I just last night looked back at the private plane we flew on, right? And now do you know what that tastes like?
I know what that tastes like. I know what writing a book tastes like. I know what it's like getting in on stage in front of 30 real estate agents. I know what it's like to get on stage at massive events of hundreds of audiology clinic owners at a time.
So now that you have that, do you want to go back to digging ditches, or do you like the path?
No, I was going to say, because you're sending out all these white papers all around town. I really want to go full circle, and I want to sign a construction company.
I love it.
And I want to go full circle from the ditch digger to the guy consulting.
Is that niche number 5? We're going to go for construction companies.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I would say just one quick word from me. I think if you're watching this video, the recording of this video, you're live with us right now. Chances are you don't have a whole heck of a lot of fear of failure. I think that would be fair to say. Most likely you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur. You might not be the one that has this fear of failure, but your people do. Morgan did as an employee of Jared's, and through mentorship, he's taught me how to break through my own ceiling of failure. Limiting beliefs and go after what I want. So you need to become better mentors, right? That's the whole point of this for me, is that's a learned behavior that Jared has learned and taught me. And now I hopefully can pass on to my next, what do you call that? Padawan, next person. My next person that I bring up into this world is you need to put your mentor hat on. You need to be a better mentor, and you need to help them fight against their fear of failure.
I love it. So master that mindset, communicate these things, communicate your culture, build a culture, right? Specialize in the details, the science and the communication skills, and you will make more money.